Hello, it's Bailey and welcome back to my channel. I'm here to discuss my September reading with you. September was a good month, so let's go ahead and get into the stats and then I will talk about the books. So I did read 15 books in the month of September, which totaled 3,824 pages, which I believe is my most read pages in a month this year. And that was a total of 58 physical reading hours, which was 65.9 pages an hour. And then I also did listen to 18 hours of audiobooks. I read 4 physical books, 4 ebooks, 4 audiobooks, and 3 ARCs. 6 of these books I owned, 3 I got from the library, 3 were actually from Kindle Unlimited. I did get a Kindle Unlimited subscription this month. And then 2 were ARCs and 1 I listened to from Libro FM. This next one is a little bit more diverse than last month, but I had 11 adult books, 2 children's, 1 YA, and 1 middle grade. And then 4 were published before 2010. I had actually none from the years 2010 to 2019. I had 8 published between 2020 and 2022. I always call that recent backlist. And then I did read 3 that were published in 2023. I'm doing a thing in the month of October where I'm reading only new releases, mostly new releases, so that'll be exciting for my 2023 stats. In terms of genre, 6 of these books were romances, 3 mystery, 2 adventure, 1 fantasy, 1 nonfiction, 1 contemporary, and 1 sci-fi, so heavy romance, not mad about that. And then for my ratings, I did have 1 DNF. I had 1 1-star, 4 2-stars. I love to give my 2 stars, we all know this. 2 3 stars, 5 4 stars, and I did get 2 5 stars. This made my average rating for the month a 3.23, which is pretty like middle of the road for me. So let's get into the books. As always, I go from my least favorite to most favorite. So the book that I did DNF was Hell of a Book by Jason Mott. This was the selection for my in-person book club, and I haven't been to my in-person book club since I had Betty. I've tried to read a couple of them, and now this is like the second or third one in a row I've DNF'd. And this just wasn't for me. It seemed to be a story that was like you were getting a story and then you were also getting like the author writing the story. It was like a book within a book situation, and I just wasn't liking it. I did read like a good chunk of it. I was probably like a quarter of the way through it when I DNF'd. And then sadly, my 1-star was the Shelf This book club pick for the month of September, which was picked by Ashley, but she also rated it this, so I can feel a little less bad. But that was Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. I've talked about this in like 3 videos already, as well as a live show. So yeah, it was 1 star. It didn't work for me. It's the writing style, it's the need to know background knowledge to understand the world, in my opinion, so just not for me. Then getting into my 2 stars, firstly I have Upgrade by Blake Crouch. I think this was one of the first books I read in the month, and I'm already like no thoughts head empty on it. I remember thinking that the characters were just uninteresting, and like the plot, I do think the science idea was interesting, but the storytelling maybe capabilities weren't. So it was like good idea, bad execution. 2 stars. You're gonna be able to see me set those there, but that's probably fine. Next, during Squash That Series, which we did a 24 and 48 for this round, which took place in September, I listened to the audiobook of The Grim Grotto by Lemony Snicket. I don't love this series, but I'm still putting myself through it. Very formulaic. The same thing happened. Doom, Despair, Count Olaf. It's happening. 2 stars. Then I have a Magic Treehouse book, A Blizzard of the Blue Moon. 2 stars. I think technically we are in the like 2.5 star range now, but again, a middle of the road Magic Treehouse. And then my final 2 star is one I'm actually like sad about because I wanted to love this series and the first one was better to me, and this one I lost all interest in, and that is Finlay Donovan Knocks 'Em Dead. I'm not sure at this point if I will continue the series. Realistically, I think I will, because I think it's something, again, to pick up the next book and listen to on audiobook during a readathon. Like, they are fast, and I would still argue that they are fun. I just don't have the intrigue that I thought I would. And I think the stakes are going to seem too low. So this definitely was a disappointing one for me. It's hard because usually I wouldn't keep a book that was 2 stars, but I do have the first book, and I love when series are all like look the same except just the color changes. Realistically, I'll probably get rid of the first one also, so wah wah. Then into my 3 stars, I have Stay Awake by Megan Golden. This was a thriller, and I love to compare this to 50 First Dates because the whole concept is that every time this girl falls asleep, she forgets everything from like the last, I think it's like 2 years. And so she wakes up and like doesn't know where she is, or like all these things that have happened in the last 2 years, but it's a thriller, and she basically is a suspect in a situation, and so she keeps waking up and then like seeing herself on the news, and so she's like kind of on the run. I don't know, it was really good. It was 3 stars, so it wasn't like a favorite 5-star thriller, but I am becoming a big fan of Megan Golden in general, and so I'm excited to keep reading her stuff. And it's one of those things that it's like fun while you're reading it, but is it a 5-star? No. And is it gonna really probably stick with me? Also no, but fun while I was there. And then I have the other Magic Tree House that I read in the month, and that was Night of the New Magicians. This one surprisingly worked for me. I didn't think it was going to, and I liked it, so 3 stars. Getting into my 4 stars, my huge accomplishment of the month was And Never Let Her Go by Anne Rule. I had been reading this for over a month, so I finally did get through it. This is a true crime story about Anne Marie Fahey and essentially her relationship with Tom Capano, who was like a political, I forget what he actually was. Something to do with politics in Delaware in the time that this is set. And essentially Anne Marie Fahey went missing, and Tom Capano is accused and now convicted of the crime. A body has never been found. And so yeah, this is a true crime story about that. It is very dense, lots of information here. It took me forever, but I do in general like just love Anne Rule's writing style. I said in the jokes episode that I read this for that it's really just not conducive for like readathons and the way I read to have to like zoom through a book like this. It would be more enjoyable for me to read this like just a couple chapters at a time and come back to it when I feel like it. So it felt like a slog, but it shouldn't have. I just am not reading in a way that I should have read this right now. But still 4 stars, so that's like a high rating. I liked it a lot. Next in that 4-star range, I have my most anticipated read of the year, which was The Duke Gets Desperate by Diana Quincy. I loved her Clandestine Affairs trilogy, and so I was excited to see what she was going to do next. And the only gripe I kind of have about this one is it is tropes that I generally don't enjoy, meaning like dislike to lovers, rivals to lovers. But considering that, I thought it was really good. And again, I am a big Diana Quincy fan, and so even if this wasn't like my perfect plot or situation for a relationship, I just like the author so much that I still had a good time reading it. I am excited to read the rest of this series that she's now putting out, because you're not going to use the same trope for every book, you know? So I'm hoping the next one is just a trope that I enjoy more. And now all of the next ones, so like my top 5, are all romances. So what a month. Still in the 4-star range, I have Loathe to Love You by Ali Hazelwood. This is the bind up of the 3 novellas. They are Under One Roof, Stuck With You, and Below Zero. I do think I gave Under One Roof 4.5 stars, and the other 2 I gave 4 stars. But yeah, an enjoyable time. Ali Hazelwood is very formulaic, but I like the formula, so it was fun. She generally writes women in STEM and big dude little lady, but they were fun. Like the tropes in these were so fun. Under One Roof was like forced proximity. They're basically end up roommates somehow, you know. And then Stuck With You, it is like these 2 people who have had kind of a relationship before and then a falling out, and then they end up stuck in an elevator together. And Below Zero is kind of second chance. Yeah, second chance, that's what it is. And so overall, I thought this bind up was really fun, and I'm excited to read more of Ali Hazelwood's other stuff. And now I don't own the rest of the books either, so we have Powerless by Elsie Silver, which is the 3rd book in the Chestnut Spring series. The Chestnut Spring series is the series that I endeavored upon mostly during Squashette series. And so I'm putting the third book so far as my least favorite. I'm obsessed with this series in general. Like, this is definitely a 4.5 star. This one, we actually follow a hockey player who is also a cowboy. The whole series is cowboy romance, okay? But the tropes of this is a hockey player, and this is like childhood friends to lovers. Very good time, loved it so much. And then I placed Flawless by Elsie Silver above that. This is the first book in the series, and I would describe the tropes of this one being a little bit more like maybe forbidden. There's some like authority kind of that's like don't be together, but it's more actually just the male character needing to mature. But in that one, they're actually like kind of not set in Chestnut Springs where the series as a whole is set, because he is like a traveling bull rider. So that was a good fun start to the series. And so then we're gonna jump into my 2 5 stars. I'm gonna skip, the next one is not in the Chestnut Springs series, but it was Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This one I was getting so excited to read. Abby Jimenez is from like near where I'm from, and she also writes, like, this book was set in a fictional town set in this region, if you know what I mean. And so this is another small town romance. We have our main character who's like driving through this town and breaks down, and this guy comes and like tows her out, and then they kind of have a one-night stand that kind of continues. She's like ending a relationship and just can't seem to help herself from coming back to this small town and spending time with our male love interest. And this is like a difference in like different social class, different lifestyle type romance, because the main female character is like a doctor. She lives in this like a dynasty, like her whole family has worked for this same hospital in the city, and our male character also has like a family tradition, or like family, I don't know what word to use. Basically, he has this house that's been passed down through his family that he now like rents out as like an Airbnb because he can't afford to really keep it without renting it out situation. And he's just kind of like barely scraping by, and she's obviously wealthy because she is a doctor and comes from a family of doctors. So it's like different worlds and trying to see how they could actually make it work to be together. And it was done very well. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I feel like I explained it so bad. I'm trying my best around here. And then my final 5 star and my favorite book of the year so far, we have the second book in the Chestnut Spring series, and that is Heartless by Elsie Silver. And yes, I'm claiming this as my favorite book of the year so far. This again is set in the town of Chestnut Springs, and the tropes of this are single dad and nanny. So basically our female character comes to town because she is friends with the girl from the first series, from the first book. And so she comes to town to kind of hang out with the couple from the first series, but our male love interest Cade is a single dad. He has, I believe the son is 4 years old, and so he needs a new nanny, and he's like rejecting all these people. They're not going to be good enough. And finally this character comes around, and they have kind of a rough start, like a really bantery start, but he does end up letting her come and be his nanny. And yeah, situations happen because they are basically living together, and she is caring for his son. And then there's lots of very cute caretaking in this book specifically, and I just really liked the male character in this one. Definitely my favorite couple. So again, I don't know how to explain romances. I feel like all I ever do is explain the tropes, but I just need you to trust me. This is a phenomenal book. Cowboy single dad. Sign up for it if you haven't yet. But there you have it. That is everything I read in the month of September. I am definitely like slogging through. I am in the last stretch of the 75 hard reading challenge, which you will be seeing a video on soon, but I've been in this intensive 75-day reading challenge that is about to wrap up. I'm just like inching towards the end, and so I do kind of feel like I'm in a slog, and I think I'm gonna slump when that challenge is over. So hopefully October ends up okay. I have at least like half the month where I'm still doing the challenge, so even if I slump after that, hopefully it ends up fine. But thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and I will see you again very soon. Bye.